Hey, Zubin here from Bubbles. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. So I thought about how best to share with you about Bubbles and its abilities, and I thought, why don't I give you a really quick and efficient demo? So before I tell you about Bubbles, let me describe the stack. It's a very common stack, great features, stable, secure, powerful. The hypervisor that we're running on this particular stack is VMware, but we'd be happy to plug it into whatever hypervisor that you're running, whether it's like Proxmox KVM or your OpenStack. The identity manager that we're using here is FreeIPA. It's identical to Red Hat IDM, also known as Red Hat Identity Manager. It is essentially Open LDAP on steroids. Your users can log in here, they can upload their SSH keys, and then they can use their same login across the entire infrastructure that you've got. All the users belong to groups, and all your users have role-based access controls and host-based access controls, meaning that depending on what group they're in, they only have access to the infrastructure that they are permitted to use. It's a fantastic tool. The infrastructure manager that we're using, let me log in with my FreeIPA username here, is Katello+Zabbix, which is essentially Red Hat Satellite. It's another fantastic tool because it shows you exactly what's going on with your entire infrastructure. It's got built-in Puppet for your configuration management. You have errata security that your operating systems are subscribed to. You know exactly which package contains vulnerabilities. You'll see the check marks here. They tell you what is up to date, what's vulnerable, what's not. You can patch it directly from here, and you can keep your infrastructure compliant. You can also do remote execution on your entire infrastructure via the built-in Ansible. It's also got a built-in Docker repository, so you can store all your and access all your containers. You've also got local mirrors of your operating system's repositories. So for all your instances and all your servers, you don't have to use up a ton of bandwidth, say if you're trying to update 1,000 machines. For monitoring, we're using Zabbix here. Not really much to say on this front because it's kind of the de facto tool in the industry. You can monitor performance of all your servers, all your instances, and you can configure this in umpteen number of ways to get alerts. With that being said, whatever other infrastructure you're running, whether it's like Nagios, Prometheus, Grafana, Splunk, Graylog, Carbon Black, Proxmox, KVM, OpenStack, whatever it is, we're happy to connect Bubbles with it so Bubbles can spin up pre-integrated environments to that infrastructure. So what is Bubbles? Bubbles is essentially an infrastructure automation and orchestration platform. It is designed to make the development team's life easier. It's meant to alleviate the workload for the IT team so they don't have to keep provisioning for the development teams all the time. What we noticed that was happening in the industry is that when the dev teams wanted a dev or QA environment, they would send a request to the IT team, and sometimes they would get their environment really fast, but other times it would take forever. It really was dependent what was going on with the company. The worst turnaround time that I saw was 30 days. So what we set out to do was we wanted to give developers and QA the ability to configure and provision their own dev and dev test environments without giving them raw access to the infrastructure. The majority of developers are not super experienced with the infrastructure side of things, and the IT teams feel really uncomfortable giving them access to it because that's where production is running. This is where the whole famous silo problem stems from in the industry until Bubbles. And Bubbles actually solves for this. The development teams can now spin up their own environments, and then they can do all the development and testing in their own bubble, hence the name. So let's do this. We'll log in with our FreeIPA username. Let's see here. And when you log in, depending on what group you are in FreeIPA, you'll have certain visibility to certain projects. So I'm an admin. I can see all the projects. So let's go and choose the web analytic project, for example, and I'll show you the properties of what is in a project. So edit this. You can see that web analytic is giving group access to the Bubbles developer one. So any user who's in this group will have access to this project. This project can spin up environments on this particular resource pool. And this resource cluster is just a bunch of hypervisors. And over here, I specify which VLAN or VLAN port group that your environments can spin up to. So you can have segregated networks for your projects. And then you can choose which kind of storage that you want. Do you want fast storage? Whatever you got configured. If you want spinning Rust, whichever. It's all configured over here. Next, we will show you what is a bubble type. So a bubble type is essentially your development environment, right? So I've got here the web analytic bubble type. And inside this bubble type, you can see that I have got two instances configured over here. So the first one is Matomo Web. Second one is Matomo DB. This instance got 2 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs, 20 gigs hard drive space. You can spin it up in this realm over here using this domain. And then this instance is configured with the Matomo Web profile. And the profile is configured in the profile section. I'll show you that in a second. The second instance, also 2 gigs, 2 CPUs, 20 gigs of RAM, configured with the Matomo DB profile. And it's super simple. If you want to add another instance to this application stack, I can just go add row, and then I can start typing whichever, and then configure the instance size and how you want it. Now, this also has the blow hook scripts. It's also got burst hook scripts. And what that essentially means is that after the instances have been spun up, if you've got a blow hook script configured, run this script after all the instances have stated that they're ready. And then when you're done with the environment, or when you want to burst the bubble, so I say it's blowing a bubble or bursting a bubble, play on the word with bubbles, you can run another hook script. So in this case, I said open a load balancer. I'll show you what that looks like. Close the port in the load balancer. And then you can configure who you need to email when the instances go up and down. So let me now show you what the profiles look like. And I tried to make it super simple and super easy. So here, for example, this is the Matomo web profile. And if I look at what the Matomo web profile looks like, I'm saying that you can select from the operating system on the list. And so you'll have to import the operating system. I can show you how to do that at one point. And then run this first boot script. So this script is going to run after the instance does their installation, or run an Ansible Playbook. So if you want to configure your app, whether it's a bash script or you want to configure it via an Ansible Playbook, you select it over here and then you save it, and that's your profile. And so those scripts or those playbooks are configured under these sections. So for example, if I go to first boot scripts, let's go open up the Matomo, and then you can see this is a bash script. You've got syntax highlighting here. And so essentially, after the operating system has installed, this script will run and configure that instance. So however you want to configure this instance to run your application, you put it in here. You see that I've got revision and tag revision. What I've done is I put in version control for this script. So for example, 3 months later you want to add something, another 3 months later you want to add something. Each time you add something, tag a revision. Maybe you did a mistake and you want to go back to a particular revision. So, you know, your source of truth on how each instance for what's inside a bubble is going to be here within bubbles. So I found that this was probably the most efficient and effective way to do it. So those are the instances playbooks is pretty much the same here. Next is the hook script. So these are the ones that run after the instances have all been blown or if they've been burst. And so, for example, this is a bash hook script. Let's take a look at what it says. This was just a simple example. This is, I'm saying after the instances have all checked in, go and run this script on the HA proxy load balancer and run this open port 80 script. Just an example here. And you can see that this is a variable. And so I've got reserved variables. The reason why I've got reserved variables here is each time that an instance is spun up, you're going to have a different IP address and you're also going to have a different FQDN, right? So this will run in a container and it will actually go and execute the script, and whatever the new FQDN or IP address, it will actually run the command with that variable completed. So, and then you got burst hook scripts here. Next, I will show you blowing a bubble. And this is basically, now I've got that application stack or that bubble type configured. Anybody on the Bubbles admin group can now blow up a web analytic bubble. And so I've also put in an expiry date so devs can't keep their environments forever. You don't have to have an expiry date, but a lot of companies don't want people to spin up infrastructure and then just leave it hanging. And so what we'll do here is I will say, let's blow a bubble. We'll have an expiry date from a week from now. And there we go. So now when I've clicked blow a bubble, what's happening here is Bubbles is now searching for the best hypervisors on that resource cluster that the project is configured for. And all the VMs are going to be created. It's going to choose which hypervisor is the best hypervisor to deploy the instance to. And essentially, I wrote a simple algorithm to choose the hypervisor with the most available resources, like who's got the most available RAM, who's got the lowest load and the most CPUs, who's got the largest data stores that the instances will fit into. So it's going to choose the hypervisors that's best suited for the bubbles. And once the VMs are created, the operating systems are going to be installed. All the IP addresses are going to be automatically assigned. All DNSs are going to be automatically created and registered. And then each of the VMs will then be configured according to its profile. And then all these VMs are going to be registered to all your other infrastructure tools across the stack. So, it will join FreeIPA. So then you'll see it in the host list over here. It'll join Katello, so you'll see it in the host list here, and then it will join Zabbix, and you should see it in the host list here after it's all configured. So we can also watch the instances provisioning. So this is the activity log, so you can see what is the history of what's been done across your environments here, or across your hypervisors. And so I can see that, hey, I've been blowing up the web analytic as part of my demo. I can see which resource pool, who did it, which group they belong to, what was the time that they ran the action, who was being emailed, what was the hook scripts being run. And we can see that the dashboard is going to show all the bubbles that are for this particular project. So in this case here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th bubble is being provisioned. And you can see in this section, I've given basic statistics and basic commands. So you can see that the instances that have been created, here's the new DNS names that are going to be registered on the DNS server. And these are the IP addresses that have gotten assigned to it. This is the OS, this is the profile that's being run, this is the creation time. You can see who owns the infrastructure. So, if somebody leaves the company, you know who owns it. Or if some bubble is expired, you can go talk to them and say, hey, do you really need it anymore? And then you can just remove it. And then I've given the user instead of allowing them to log into the hypervisor, just basic hypervisor commands. So you can stop the instance, you can start the instance, you can reboot the instance, or you can rebuild the instance. Or if you want to access the console directly from here, and we can see exactly what's happening while it's provisioning, let's go and check it out. And we can see exactly what it is doing here. And so you can see that it's doing an install over the network. All right, so let's see, we will go and check burst a bubble next. So we have got a couple of bubbles in the stack. So here's one that's expired. So let's go and burst this. So this is Web Analytic 30. You can see that we've got these two instances. Let's take a look at our other infrastructure tools and check out these instances. So Web 30, let's go over to here. We've got 130 instance over here in FreeIPA. We've got another 30 instance here in Katello+, and then in Zabbix we've got another 30. So if I go and burst a bubble and essentially removing it from everywhere, so that is 30, we'll go burst a bubble. And then it's going to ask you which bash, if you want to do the default hook script, and then this is the email team to alert, we'll go burst the bubble. What's going to happen right now is it's going to go to the hypervisors, find the instances where they belong to, it already knows, remove the instances, it will then unregister it from FreeIPA, it'll unregister it from Katello+, it'll unregister it from Zabbix. Now, whatever else you're running, we can configure to always register to that tool and unregister it. Usually most tools have APIs, or we can just do an SSH and command to join them. But the whole point of this is that all the automation is already done for you, and it's within Bubbles. And I've created a simple method of plugging in new infrastructure tools where Bubbles can run the automation on. And that I can show you maybe when we do a one-on-one demo. Otherwise, this demo would take a very, very long time. So next, we can, let's take a look. So 30, let's see 30. I'm going to refresh this, and we'll see that it is now removed. And then we can see it also removed from Katello+. Let me refresh this. So this is 30. And it's gone from here. And Zabbix refreshes automatically. So 30's gone over here. So you can see that it's going to dynamically add and remove the instances that Bubble is either in charge of provisioning or deprovisioning here. Let's see. So the next one would be, these are the resources. So these are the hypervisors. If you have, let's say you've got a large team A and a small team B, maybe you can assign 3 hypervisors to team A. So I've got first visor here, and I'm assigning to a particular group. I got another cluster here, assigning it to another group. If I want to see what's happening across the entire hypervisor cluster, we can see, okay, this is being used 94 gigs of RAM, this is how much storage is being used, and then these are all the bubbles with all the instances that are on, and these are all expired, so they got to be removed soon. So that is the resources, and you know, if you're an admin, you can see the resources. Devs and QA can't really see it. And then if you got the overview, if you want to see what's happening across your entire stack, you know, what all the instances Bubbles is managing, you go to the overview section over here. And if you ever have any issues with the product, or if you want to give us feedback or request any features, just go to support and feedback over here, fill in your email address, and then that way you can actually communicate with us. Now, Bubbles this is the UI aspect of it. It's actually, in its heart, it's a command line tool. So we can actually go to the command line, and this is for all you sysadmins, command line junkies. maybe developers want to actually use it, because the Bubbles command line, it gives you a lot of power here. So you can spin up so many dev test environments or instances just by scripting it. And so instead of going and pointing and click to spin up an environment, I mean, using the UI is pretty efficient, but you can get some real power out of the command line. So for example, let's go and take a look at I'm already in the directory. Yes. So here you can see I've laid it out where I've got the projects directory, and these are the commands here. So bin ls, these are the commands that the UI uses to actually do its work. And so for example, if I want to show how to list a profile, for example, or even a project, let's go list a project. So I'll go bubbles list projects, and I'll go -h. So I've written this in a Unix style format so that you can understand how to use it. So over here it says bubbles list project with the group name, so -g, and it was bubbles -admin1. All right, so these are all the projects that anybody in the bubbles admin 1 can use. So we were in web analytic here. If you want to list bubble types in the web analytic project, you can go bubbles list bubble type -h. Let's take a look. Okay, -p for project, and then we'll go web analytic, and there's the web analytic bubble type. Essentially anything that you do in the UI, it's all written on the command line here first. And we can show you actually this blowing a bubble here. So let's take a look how to blow a bubble. We'll go bubbles blow -h. Okay, a lot more flags to put in here. So we'll go bubbles blow -u zubin.parihar -p, I think web analytic. Let's go pull that up again. Web analytic -b for the bubble type name. It was also called web analytic, if I recall. And then we will say -e for an expiry date. So what are we? Year, month. So 2023-09-25, and -a for automatic DNS generation. So let's run that, and this should start going across your infrastructure right now, saying it's going to deploy to this particular hypervisor. It's looking for available IPs in this VLAN or this network. It found these two IP addresses that are available. It's going to use that, and now it's deploying the VMs on that particular resource pool, and then it's going to start building. And once it starts building, you should have your application up and running. So speaking of that, let's go and check if that previous application is up and running. Let's go to dashboard. So it's still provisioned. No, it's actually finished provisioning. This is the new one. So let's go check if the application is up. So this was configured with this DNS address. Copy. Let's open up a new tab. Open it up, and there you go. So with that previous bubble we blew earlier, you've got the application stack up and running. Now back in the command line, let us go, and I'll show you how this is laid out. So we go projects, and what do we have here? Let's go check web analytic, because we were in that, /L. And you can see everything is also configured on the command line interface as well as the UI. So if I go to bubble type, I've got a YAML file here. So we'll go vim-r web analytic, and you saw that this instance has 2 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs, This is the host name, the profile, which we saw earlier. So everything is infrastructure as code on the command line. Let's go take a look at the first boot script, for example, cd ... cd first boot script. So vim -r matamo, and what I showed you about how to configure that instance. So whatever is done on the UI is actually being written to the file system, and if I actually make a change to the file system, it gets reflected on the UI. So they're one-to-one connected over here. So whichever mode that you prefer using bubbles in, you can choose whichever way that you want. So once again, I won't go through all of this because it's quite big, but you can see all the commands are here. This is what the UI uses, and that is basically it, right? Now, there's a lot of other smaller things to show, but that's probably best done in a one-on-one demo. Otherwise, this video would last forever. And what I essentially sought after with Bubbles is I wanted to make this applicable to what the devs wanted, which was self-service provisioning. And I wanted to make this applicable for what the IT team needed, which is compliant infrastructure. And I also wanted to make this thing super simple to use, but also very powerful. And I believe we found the right balance here. So feel free to share this with your entire tech team, get their opinions on it, and then give me feedback. Or if you have any questions, contact me with the link below. And so if you're interested in something like this, I'd be super happy to work with you and integrate this into your environment. And how we work is on a consulting contract. We will charge to do the installation and the integration, and we'll charge for any customizations that you actually need for your specific environment. And then after that, we do a small monthly fee for support and updates. You'll find that we're a lot cheaper than hiring someone, and you'll get your automation done a lot faster. And also something to note, you're also not locked in. If you decide that you don't like Bubbles or you just don't need it anymore, Bubbles is a virtual appliance. It's a VM that's running on your infrastructure. You can simply just delete the appliance, and then everything would still run the same. I've been on the side where I was locked in and it didn't feel great. So that being said, thanks for taking the time to watch the demo. I hope we get to work together very soon, and I hope we get to blow a very, very big bubble together. And again, if you'd like to contact me, click the link below. Other than that, have a great day.